Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the City of Port Washington Common Council meeting Tuesday, March 19th, 2024. It is 6:30 and all aldermen and women are present. Mr. Newmeyer will be joining us later. We have a scout here again tonight who's working on a badge. So Dylan, if you want to join me up here, this is Dylan Yost. He's going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Dylan, you get in trouble, you show that you should be okay then. All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Dylan. Good job. All right, under the consent agenda, I'd be looking for a motion to approve the minutes and accept the invoice report.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions or concerns on that motion? All right, seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that moves us into the mayor's business. We've got 3 items here tonight. First, I want to welcome our new city administrator, Melissa Pengel, to my left here. Melissa started yesterday in the city, her new adventure here with us. She comes from Washira County, where she was the county administrator, and prior to that, worked in the court system and is an attorney up in Winnebago in the Oshkosh area. The council had agreed that we brought on Melissa for a variety of reasons. Strong intellect, great strategy, good thinking, visionary, and has a strong demonstration and ability to collaborate and work with a lot of people. She's got experience with building projects and managing multiple electeds in a small area, and she's done that very, very well and came highly recommended. I think she was the first person we've ever hired where people, after we hired her, called us to congratulate us for our decision on hiring her. So we are very excited to have you here. So, Melissa, if you want to, you have up to 3 minutes, and then I'm going to turn your microphone
less
off.
than 3. Thank you. I have had such a great start, very warm welcome. I got to come down on Saturday and set my office up, and I want to thank Susan and the mayor for allowing me to come down to do that so I could start settled in. And the staff and everyone has been extremely helpful. I got to go on a small tour yesterday, and you'll see me out and about because I'm a visual learner, and to learn about all the good things going on, I'll want to go out and see it and experience it for myself. So thank you for the warm welcome, and I feel like I've been here a month already, and it's only been 2 days, so
Yeah.
thank you.
Fantastic. The other piece is just a reminder then that our common council meeting that would have normally been on April 2nd, that is an election night. So the common council meeting will be held on Wednesday, April 3rd at our normal starting time. And as a reminder, please remember to vote, register to vote, come in early. And Susan, I'll turn it over to you just for 1 minute. If you can just give us a brief reminder when early voting starts, hours, et cetera.
Thank you. Early voting actually started today, so that's done in person, actually in this room. That's why the voting booths are set up. It's done by absentee ballot. That will continue 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. daily until March 29th. On that last day, which is a Friday, we will extend the hours till 5 p.m. After the 29th of March, you will need to register to vote and vote on Election Day, which is April 2nd. If anyone has any questions or needs assistance in having documentation for the ability to register to vote or proof of photo ID for obtaining a ballot, they can always contact my office. We have many different documents, and information is available on our city website as well. And we look forward to working with everyone and having a successful election day. Thank you.
Excellent. And thank you. And thanks for all the men and women who volunteer and act as supporters for the elections, including several councilmen and women. So, and then the last thing is I just wanted to give an update. I had, there's 2 things. Remember, if you are interested in participating in the Police Department Citizen Academy, to seek that information online, that's on the city website and the Police Department's Facebook page. I think that begins in 2 weeks, beginning of April. Captain? Yes. Coming up quick. And then the second thing is a thank you to Deputy Chief DeBoer and the fire department. Last week, I had the opportunity to spend a few hours at the fire department. Dylan, if you want to have a cool day, like we should get a badge for you, spend part of the day with the EMS workers and the fire department. I went through training. I know, and I talked about that a little bit on my city update on my Facebook page, but it was a great day. I would encourage anyone up here to spend some time with them if you ever wonder what do they do all the time. the training that they do, the technology in those ambulances is very impressive. And then the high quality people that support and serve the city of Port Washington. And I got to go on a call, so every little boy's dream. I was like Squad 51. I hopped in the fire truck and went ripping down the road here, all of 1 minute to get to We Energies to answer a call. So it was very cool, and I just want to thank those men and women for helping me with that. So any questions for me on anything? Excellent. That'll move us into the officer and staff reports. If you did not get a chance to, again, I would highly recommend that we figure out a way to get these out to the city on our Facebook page. Susan's got a great piece in here on early voting and those different components. Mr. Crane, I see you are here tonight. I really, really appreciate the photos and the info, especially on the clearing that was done over the winter. I also thought it was pretty impressive that Dennis at the marina, that we have 38,272 new citizens that were stocked in the form of brown trout into our inner harbor. So there's some pretty cool things that are going on in Port Washington. Anybody have any other questions for anyone on the department pieces? Okay, that brings us into item 7A then, I skipped over the most important part of the meeting. Public comments. Are there any public comments or appearances tonight? Any public comments or appearances tonight? Any public comments or appearances tonight? Dylan, that was your last chance to give like an impromptu speech here for extra credit. And it's also the last time I'll pick on you tonight. Okay, that then brings us into 7A, General Government and Finance Committee, consideration and possible action on a National Fish and Wildlife Foundation grant agreement for creating a resilient and sustainable Valley Creek corridor. The issue is, should the city accept a $915,000 grant from the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation for the purpose of creating a resilient and sustainable Valley Creek corridor? The recommendation is to accept that grant. Rob, you have the floor.
All right, terrific. Well, I'm really excited tonight to introduce Melissa Curran from Stantec. We were notified in early January that we had been awarded this large grant for, again, creating a resilient and sustainable Valley Creek corridor. We've been pursuing grants, partnering with Stantec and the Lakeshore Natural Resources Partnership for the last 3 years in particular, and have been fortunate enough to obtain large grants from the Fund for Lake Michigan, from U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, from the American Bird Conservancy, among others. So this is, of course, the biggest of all of those, $915,000, and I thought deserved some updating to the council. We did, with the Board of Public Works, we took a tour of Valley Creek that we had several attendees on that tour, kind of looking at the impacts that repeated severe weather events have had on the creek, and the loss of vegetation from invasives. And so all part of what we've been working on up in Birchwood Hills and now in Upper Lake Park. So I will hand the floor over to Melissa, who wrote a phenomenal grant application, and real happy to present it to you. So.
Great, thanks everyone. Are you controlling the slides, Rob, or? Okay,
I am.
okay, great. You can move forward. So again, everyone, the name's Melissa Curran. I work with Stantec Consulting Services, and I've been working with the city now for probably 4 or 5 years on really the vision of what Valley Creek Corridor could be. And that's what really I wanted to give you, just a high-level overview of kind of the vision, what I understand, sort of the purpose and need, how we got to this point, and then where we're going to go from here. So really, the project need is that, you know, our climate patterns are changing. And so in 2018, you guys had a pretty significant rain event that really changed pretty dramatically the character of Valley Creek. A lot more down cutting, a lot more erosion. You guys had a lot of flooding. These occurrences could happen again. They could happen with more frequency. So really, you know, anything we can do to make a more resilient community, make it resistant to some of these flooding events, protect the banks that are eroding, because you are losing a significant amount of parkland. because of all the eroding banks, and then you're also potentially infringing on some public infrastructure. Certainly trails, sewer, water mains are being potentially or will be potentially impacted if this continues to get worse. So in light of sort of the new climate that we're working with, that's one of the reasons why we would want to do a project like this. Certainly there's a number of stressors such as invasive species that have invaded the corridor. Everyone is probably intimately familiar with the emerald ash borer and the impacts that all the ash, the die-off of ash, that it significantly impacted the corridor. And, a lot of these stressors are compounded by some of the land use. This is a very urban environment, and that really does play into where we are today, but also where we envision this project going forward. We have to design in light of the urban environment and consideration of all the changing climate. And then certainly lake levels, that impacts how the stream connects with the lake and what kind of a new reimagined estuary may look like. And so really it's about taking a degraded ecosystem and making it as resilient as possible. And so, as I said, when we consider the design, will accommodate for future conditions. The goal is to improve water quality. Again, all the erosion that's happening is really impacting the water quality in the stream, and then of course downstream Lake Michigan. The goal is to enhance aquatic habitat. So it's not, Valley Creek isn't known to be a fishery, but what if it could be? What if we could restore brook trout to that stream? There are some cold water inputs. So what if we could make this a really cool little fishery for our young generation to experience fishing. Reduce certainly infrastructure risk and associated costs due to failure of the banks. Improve public access. So Valley Creek has this great interurban trail that runs right up the corridor, but really there's no good connection between that paved trail and the creek. So if you wanted to get down to the creek, you have to navigate some pretty, double black diamond slopes just to get down there. And there really is no good trail access from that creek to a lot of the other parks that you have. You have 9 public parks in that corridor. And so there's a connectivity issue and an access issue. If you were disabled, you really couldn't get to the creek at all. So really reimagining what this looks like from not only an ecosystem perspective, but also a community access perspective, and then certainly involving the public in this project as we move forward. So you can go ahead, Rob. So what I wanted to do is just sort of go through some of the opportunities, and all the pictures you're going to see are of Valley Creek. So this is, some of these slopes are 30 feet or more high, and so the bottom left, you can see that's a 30-foot tall eroding bank, and so that's right in the backside of Upper Lake Park, and you're losing a significant amount of parkland because of this, and that's not going to go away unless we fix the issues that are happening in Valley Creek. One of the advantages of doing a project here, because why here? Why would a grant agency invest in Valley Creek? Well, you guys own 100% of the corridor from the mouth all the way up to Birchwood Hills where the creek stops. That is unheard of for one municipality to have all of that ownership. So that makes a project like this incredibly feasible. So, and that's really, in an urban environment, that's a pretty special to be able to have 100% access. So not only to the creek, there's a few little private landowners that butt up pretty close to the creek, but the city owns the creek, a lot of the floodplain, plus some of the upland parkland. So that's going to make this a very feasible project, and certainly that's what grant agencies are looking at when they're investing a lot of money in the design phase and then future construction phases, is how feasible is a project like this. You can go ahead. So one of the goals of this project is to naturalize the shoreline. So you guys have tried any number of ways to stabilize the shoreline. There's some pretty big concrete blocks. There's just a lot of man-made debris that has been put in the creek corridor to stabilize the banks, and some are holding, some are not. And the ones that aren't are causing additional erosion because of what happened. So stabilizing the shoreline will allow us to repair the stream banks, to create a more natural environment, create better habitat for fish and aquatic invertebrates. So again, back to this, revitalizing what this natural feature really could be for the city. Go ahead. Improve water quality, and that's really a big a big goal of a lot of funding agencies, especially in the Great Lakes Basin, is improving water quality. So when we pitch this project to funding agencies, we talk about it with respect to improvements to fish and the aquatic environment, but also a corresponding water quality. So we will. Things that we'll do is obviously stabilizing those banks, creating a more naturalized vegetation to really hold the banks and keep that water from moving downstream and into Lake Michigan. And you can see in some of the, there's a lot of stormwater inputs, so certainly there's going to be a big focus on naturalizing the stream, but we also have to take into account those stormwater inputs that are coming into the stream. So this project will have a big civil engineering component as well. And you can even see the culvert on the lower right. We don't know for sure, but we assume that when they put that culvert in, it was probably at the stream grade. So you can assume that that's how many feet of the stream that has downcutted since that culvert was put in. So it just goes to show you that that amount of sediment, that amount of loss of habitat is happening in the creek corridor. Go ahead. And so another project that we'll be looking at is, again, back to the stormwater input. So up on Upper Lake Park, you have a series of pretty small stormwater outlets that discharge right at the top of the bluff, and they're causing pretty significant erosion, leading down into cutting through that pretty big bluff there and causing significant erosion. And that's in part why you have such eroding banks on the backside of the Upper Lake Park. But by reducing some of that erosion coming from the outfalls, we will improve, increase biodiversity, improve water quality, promote infiltration, and recharge the groundwater. Go ahead. So I mentioned access improvements. So aside from the public road crossings, the picture on the top that is the bike trail crossing. So if you, it's not a safe crossing. It's you really can't cross it except for during low water levels. And so really it's unfortunate that there really is that lack of connectivity between the interurban trail and some of the parklands. So that's going to be a big component of this project, is the engineering component, but also the public enhancement components. And so again, on the picture on the lower left, that is just south of Antoine Park, is that right? And really, from that park, you can't get down to the creek. It's almost a vertical drop. So go ahead. And wildlife habitat, and these are, we are already investing in the next slide will show some of the grants that we've received, but we're already investing in the upland acreage associated with the Valley Creek corridor. So we did secure some additional grant funding to do invasive control, native tree planting, and this is really to get the public kind of interested in what's happening in Valley Creek corridor, because this is going to be a very large project. This will be a multi-year, at least, project when we finally get to the construction phase. And so to get the public used to, things that are happening, improvements that are happening, that's in part why we're doing the upland acreage right now. Go ahead. And in addition to the engineering and community access improvements, there is an education and outreach component to this. And we are partnering with Lakeshore Natural Resource Partnership on this project. It's a multi-tiered project. So really part of the grant that the city will be hopefully accepting part of that money will go towards Lakeshore Natural Resource Partnership, and they will engage in this 3-tiered approach: elementary students, middle high school students, and then college-age students. And the college-age students, we are partnering with the Freshwater, UW-Milwaukee Freshwater School, Freshwater Science School, and they're actually making Valley Creek Corridor their capstone project, and it may be a couple-year capstone project where the students enrolled in that program will spend an entire year developing a project related to Valley Creek. So it could be water quality related, it could be community access related. So you'll get a chance to actually, hear from the students, and they'll propose a project to you. We can move forward with it or not. I mean, it'll be a school project, but nonetheless, this is all part part of getting the community and especially young people engaged in what this project could be, because we're really doing this for future generations. And middle and high school students, we are likely partnering with River Edge Nature Center in Newburgh. And really that will focus on water quality. So there is going to be a lot of monitoring pre and post construction so that we can better understand how the water quality has improved as a result of this project. And that will be one of the important metrics that we have to report on for the funding agencies. And then the elementary kids, it's really just about getting them up and playing in the creek. So it's more fun than it is anything. Go ahead. And just a quick summary of the funding strategy. So, we did originally get several years ago a Fund for Lake Michigan grant, and that is what really spearheaded this entire project. And that particular grant developed a watershed plan, and we identified some priority projects that we are moving forward through design. There was a Career Foundation grant that did some ecological enhancements up at Birchwood Park, and that was primarily John led that. There is a Fish and Wildlife Service coastal grant that supplemented the restoration work that we are doing up at Birchwood Hills Park. And then at Upper Lake Park, we are also doing a pollinator garden. You guys have a lot of mowed lawn up on the top, and so we're taking a little half-acre area and turning it into a pollinator garden. We did receive some additional money from partnering with American Bird Conservancy through another National Fish and Wildlife Foundation grant where they are the applicant, but part of the money is being spent in the Valley Creek corridor. And that just recently cleared some invasives on the backside of Upper Lake Park. And then the big grant that you guys are considering accepting, the National Coastal Resiliency Fund grant from National Fish and Wildlife Foundation. And then we do have another grant pending in partnership with the Wisconsin Coastal Management. And that grant and the one that you're considering accepting today together will hopefully fund 100% of the design phase for all of Valley Creek corridor. So those two grants complement each other. And I just have to, give kudos to the city for being willing to, think big about a project like this. This is a pretty special project. I mean, the grant, the National Coastal Resiliency Grant that you'll consider today, that is a national grant. I think they funded 2 or 3 projects in all of the Great Lakes. Most of the funding does go to the 2 coasts. So the fact that they selected Valley Creek is pretty special. So you guys should feel pretty lucky that they invested in that, choosing to invest in your community. And then the Wisconsin Coastal Management Grant through the bipartisan infrastructure law, they had to select 3 projects in Wisconsin. They ultimately, the only one that got advanced to what we call the full proposal stage is the Valley Creek project. So in all of Wisconsin, they prioritized this community. And then again, at the national level, they again prioritized you guys and wanted to see a full proposal. So you should feel pretty blessed that there's so much investment and interest in this project. I think the next one is just questions. Do you have any questions for me?
Council, any questions? Ms. Postel?
I do have one question. All right, we'll approve the grant tonight, definitely. When can these residents start seeing actual activity as you're starting to take measurements and start your design process?
Yeah, so there will be a flurry of activities, hopefully starting this summer. So we have to do an extensive amount of data collection, topo. So there's going to be people that are collecting topo across the entire Valley Creek corridor. So maybe we'll have to do some soil samples, but it's going to be people kind of walking around. And this design process is probably going to be a 2-year process. And then of course we have to find additional money for construction. So this will be a 5+ year project, at least.
All right, so I'm assuming that all of these people will have a heads up that there might be someone in their backyard and it's okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, the city owns a lot of the land, but there's, there will be some areas where we'll be walking, close to people's backyards, certainly.
Thank you.
Doing topo.
Doing
Love it.
topo surveys, yeah.
Language from the biz, topographical maps, Dylan. All right, Mr. Sigwart?
I'm a little more familiar with Mineral Springs, where there are a ton of springs up south part of town. Do we have the same base flow here for Valley Creek? Are there a lot of springs up around Birchwood Hills?
I hope so. That's one of the things where we will be looking at pretty closely. There certainly are springs at Gunther Park, and we are really looking closely at how we can incorporate that groundwater into the creek. Again, if we want to think about this improving fishery in some way, that groundwater input's going to be really important for that.
Valley Creek is really flashy, okay? I live up by Lincoln School, and as soon as we put in the trash rack, I wanted to see if it worked. So we got a really hard rain. I jumped in my truck, sped down there. There were already logs up on it was in minutes, okay? It's an extremely flashy creek, okay? And that's going to be part of the challenge for the civil end of this business, make it work.
Yep, and part of the opportunity to make it resilient, because we know that. We know it's an urban system. We know that we have to design it with resiliency in mind.
Other questions? Mr. Player?
I guess, too, for you, John, like the fact that we've done all this work at Birchwood Hills and gotten that sort of the northern end of this sort of work done, is that extremely beneficial to this project as well? Does that help us in any way in terms of getting this work done? Not really. Are they completely unrelated?
No, I'm sorry.
Come on, I worked all day. So I would say they definitely complement each other because the end product is, we're fixing, our big focus up in Birchwood Hills was invasive removals, and, correcting, we didn't do a lot of work on the stream, but we did work around the pond, and then we've also extended north of the pond now. So I'm sorry, so rephrase exactly what you're wondering.
I guess does any of the work that we've already done help this work that we'll be starting now? Maybe to you, Rob, too, or Melissa.
Yeah, go ahead. But yes, as Melissa indicated, it's a multi-tiered approach. And so part of it is like habitat restoration. So we're improving pollinators, we're establishing natives. And so if we can get the invasives out, I think it's going to just improve the ecosystem and I guess the way that, nature works in the system. So we've got scientists to handle this, not
Yeah, because if we were to let
not road
Birchwood
engineers.
full of invasive, obviously it would carry its way down. So, hope that answers.
And I'm hoping some of this kind of like pre-work in advance of kind of any stream work really gets the public interested and engaged in improvements that are happening in the whole of the corridor. That's the goal.
Yeah, and at Birchwood Hills, and I know the mayor knows this, and anyone who's been up there, just the work that they've done to clear out that area. And you can actually see the birch trees in Birchwood Hills.
It's a beautiful stand. Yeah. So Melissa, I'm going to hit you with a couple of questions here, and they're not like scrutiny, they're just wonderings for me. So the first one is, or the first couple are, there's a bunch of man-made issues along that natural creek pathway. Norport, we close off, there's a pinch point in a pipe there. You go another like 3/4 of a mile, it's not even that far, and you get another pinch point there. And then we created, like John had said, or Alderman Sigwart had said, down at the bottom, where we, again, put in a pipe, closed off the natural creek flow. And, in a 100-year plan, while this grant kind of addresses some of that, the city infrastructure, do we need to address that over time where those areas need to be opened up for the natural flow? I've lived, like a lot of people, I've lived here a long time. I've watched those two areas, because those take me to my home. They flood over, 100-year floodplains 2-3 times a decade. And they're always in those man-made pinch points. Every time we have a problem, it's something that we put in place. Mm-hmm. And while this grant addresses the infrastructural pieces, hopefully taking out a lot of those dumb blocks and things that just got washed out, what should we do in the long term as we're thinking strategically for those other places where, a creek that naturally could spread out and run gets condensed, increasing that flow rate, and then just charging down, pulling trees like John had said. What would you recommend for us as we move forward? Because as we have the opportunities on those roads, what should we do that's best for the future of Port Washington?
So when you say infrastructure, are you thinking more culverts, or are you thinking like
culverts,
sewer, water mains?
No, not our infrastructure, but like when you go across Norport, there's a pipe, I don't know, it's a culvert.
Yep. So the three big culverts will all be addressed as part of this project. So right now, like the Norport, that's when we think about like a recession of the erosion that's happening, that kind of stops it right there. Like if you look at that culvert, it's a big drop. And so that kind of stops the head cut, we call it, up the stream. So all of those will be redesigned. So we're going to have new and improved culverts. Ideally, if money were no object, we'd turn those into bridges so that the stream could remeander. Of course, money will probably be a factor, so we'll probably have to right-size the culvert, maybe even make it a bottomless culvert so that the stream does have the opportunity to move and change. Where there is a floodplain, we are going to better connect the stream to the floodplain so that when we do have a flooding event, the stream can get up and out of the creek and then utilize the floodplain, which it cannot right now because it's so incised. So where we have those opportunities, that will be part of the design, is for us to kind of get that water up and out of the creek.
But is where, like Norport, Rob, where strategically is that road on the map of being redone from kind of start to finish? And again, I'm not advocating for spending more money.
Yeah, sure.
But
No,
like,
I mean,
if we're going to do it right, the condos on the lake are going to flood every couple of years. Even if we do it well, we've got culverts in there that are slowing down or speeding things up.
yeah, I mean, Norport's been on our, on our radar for reconstruction for a number of years. I believe it's in our 5-year plan. If not that, it's in our 7-year plan. But we have pushed it off a little further until we complete this work.
Okay. Because even down at Veterans Park, you look at old photos of Port Washington and that creek just ran right along there and there was a bridge. And, there's a lot of damage that we do because of man-made infrastructure. Okay, then my other questions for Rob and maybe even Rick here, our counsel, is when I looked at this grant agreement, what liabilities does the city have for this? I mean, there's some very interesting mandates in here that the city is held accountable for, that we could lose the grant for things that could be the behaviors of contractors, et cetera. I don't mind the buy American steel and tools part, but there's some very interesting pieces in here that I'm wondering, and then if we have any financial liabilities as a result of that.
Well, so I'll start. I mean, it's been reviewed by Rick. This is not our first National Fish and Wildlife Foundation grant, so this is our second one in the last, I think, 3 years. So the Spinnaker West Pond, which was reconstructed again over the past 3 years, that was built with a very similar NIFWF grant. So we had to abide by those regulations. And again, so when we write the agreement for engineering, we will write all those stipulations into the grant, or I'm sorry, into the agreement with the consultant to make sure that they're accountable for meeting the grant expectations.
Okay. If anybody read that whole thing, there's some very unique national issues that are being embedded into a creek grant acceptance.
Right.
So I'll save my federal government speech for another day, when there's no scouts here who should go home after a while. And then and then I don't know if there's any financial matching in there. I couldn't find it, but I'm assuming we've got time and effort that we're going to put in there.
There is. It's $365,000 of match, but we are able to apply all those grants that Melissa indicated that we've already received. Plus, we did budget in our CIP is $100,000 towards local match for projects, or for this project, as well as we can apply just our normal labor that we spend doing work in the creek, the work that John's crews do in Birchwood Hills or Antoine Park. All of that can go towards local match.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, thank you for all that. And then, Melissa, the only thing that you and John have to do is you've got to preserve the weird little blue spruce that's on the bike path that somebody decorates every month for the different holidays. Yeah, ball it up and move it to the other side if it gets touched. You will have a revolution in town. Mr. Benning?
Well, I just wanted to compliment, Rob and staff on these grant writing skills and the grants that we've gotten for that. And with that, I'll make the motion that we accept the grant.
The motion, is there a second?
Second?
Second by Alderman Postle. Any questions or concerns on the motion? All right, seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Excellent. And again, thank you, Rob, Roger, and Melissa. This will be really cool, and John. Oh, heck, Emily, you too. All right. 7A2, Resolution 2024-1, resolution authorizing the redemption of the city's taxable water system revenue bond anticipation notes, Series 2021, dated October 28th, 2021. The issue is, should the Common Council approve Resolution 2024-01, authorizing the redemption of the city's taxable water system revenue bonds anticipation note, Series 2021, dated October 28th, 2021. The staff recommends approval of this. I'm going to turn it over to you, Mark.
Thank you. This is really part of the bigger process of securing the long-term financing for the water plant project. The requirements of closing on that agreement requires us to pay off the bond anticipation note that the city issued to help pay for some of the initial design and engineering costs of that project. So staff would recommend that we would comply with that request and continue with the closing on that long-term financing.
All right, this came out of governance. Any questions, concerns, or thoughts?
I would move to approve Resolution 2024-1.
Excellent. There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second?
Second by Alderman Postle. Any questions or concerns on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Excellent. All right, that takes us on to the next agenda item. 7A3, consideration and possible action on municipal advisory agreement with Wisconsin Public Finance Professionals, LLC, for the $21,500,000 safe drinking water loan. Should the Common Council, the issue is, should the Common Council approve a municipal advisory agreement with Wisconsin Public Finance Professionals, LLC, for $21,500,000 for safe drinking water loan, and the staff recommends engaging with WPFP for the $21,500,000 safe drinking water loan. Mark.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty normal course of business when we engage in this level of financing that we have a consultant assist us with perhaps some of the nuances and technicalities of the process to make sure the city is compliant and meets all the expectations of the financing agreements. Therefore, staff continues to recommend that we engage, in this case, Wisconsin Public Finance Professionals for that purpose.
All right, again, it's been reviewed at committee.
And with that, I would move to approve staff's recommendation.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I will second.
All right. Any questions or concerns on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, motion passes. And then finally, the consideration and possible action on a scope of engagement with Quarles and Brady LLP for the $21,500,000 safe drinking water loan for the city of Port Washington, Wisconsin. The issue is, should the Common Council approve engaging Quarles and Brady as the city's bond counsel for the $21.5 million safe water loan for the city of Port Washington. The staff recommends that council approve the scope of engagement letters from Quarles and Brady dated March 14th, 2024. Mark.
Yes, this is the companion piece to the Municipal Financial Advisory Consultant, and this is bond counsel. Again, with any financing this magnitude, staff believes it's in the best interest of the city to engage bond counsel to assist with that process.
Bond counsel. Feels very British. The James Bond joke. Okay. Anyways,
And
gotta
with
be
that, I
explained.
would move to
Jonathan?
accept staff's recommendation.
Alderwoman Postle,
Yes, I second.
you're on a roll, so let's keep it going. Any questions or concerns on the motion? All right, seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. That moves us into 8A, Plan Commission, public hearing to amend 48.5-170 of the zoning code to allow recording studios in the Industrial 1 existing industrial district. The issue is, should the Common Council, I already read that one. We should go into our hearing. So notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held before the Common Council of the City of Port Washington, that the subject of the hearing is to amend the section 485-170 of the City of Port Washington zoning code to allow recording studios in the I-1 existing industrial district. Interested parties needed to obtain this, and I'm going to call this hearing to order. Are there any speakers in favor? Any speakers in favor? Any speakers in favor? Are there any speakers opposed? Opposed? Opposed. This hearing is closed, which moves us into the next agenda item, which is to review the ordinance. Ordinance 2024-2, amending and/or creating zoning ordinances to allow and regulate recording studios as a conditional use in the I-1 existing industrial district. This is the second reading. The Common Council is being asked to approve a petition from the applicant to amend the City of Port Washington zoning code to add recording studios as a conditional use in the I-1 industrial district. The staff recommends that the council approve this. And I will speak to this before we get into the conversations. As chair of Planning Commission, we've reviewed this. We've reviewed all of the different components and pieces, as well as the expectations for business hours, et cetera, to allow this potential recording studio. And at Planning Commission, we will be reviewing the building and the conditional use grant for that this Wednesday. Otherwise, we had a brief conversation. It's in the industrial park. It will be pretty well soundproofed. And we'll have a recording studio without concerts on the front lawn or in the building.
How about on the roof?
On the roof? Yeah. Little Abbey Road opportunity there? Yeah. Well, we're going to have to get a new roof on there. It would be cool to hear Get Back while all the people leaving Clean Test were going home. All right, but any questions or concerns on that? Otherwise, I'd be looking for a motion to approve.
I would move to approve with the caveat that the city attorney review and ensure the correct applicant is listed.
Second.
That is seconded. Alderman Tierney, did you have a?
Yeah, just a real quick question. Did the Plan Commission discuss at all? Would this be an appropriate use anywhere else in the city?
Interestingly,
this is what it was asked about. Obviously.
Yeah, so because of where it is and where they're building and how they're building, right, that it fits out there the way the code is being rewritten for them. In the city of Port Washington, it could potentially be put into a commercially zoned area, but again, there we would have to put in there an exemption into our ordinance or code. All right, there's a motion and a second. Any questions or concerns? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, maybe we'll have a Taylor Swift sighting in the future. We have no unfinished business. We have no new business. Do we have any public comments or appearances before we go? Dylan, my friend, you picked a good city council meeting to come to. 47 minutes. I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions or concerns? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Welcome, Melissa. This meeting is adjourned. Go Pirates.